screaming. Hello and welcome to Crossfaded.
Welcome.
Can you guess?
Episode 2.
Can you guess what today's episode is about? I bet you can't.
The Titanic.
So today we're talking about how the Titanic didn't sink. And we want to preface this by saying that we believe a ship sank, just not the Titanic. All right? So we both have a little bit of notes, and I have a little bit of history to go through before we get into the actual conspiracy.
I have a few fun things I'll add along here.
Okay.
The cool thing on this one is that me and June have the same opinion. We have some things I think that each other don't necessarily know or know a lot about, which is cool, but we have the same opinion. So some of June's stuff in the beginning will be more history-based, just to like set the tone, say what the truth that's out there that's being said, what that is, just so that everyone knows we understand or like on the same page that is what came out. And then you'll hear kind of all of the sides to why we think what we think.
Cool. So on April 14th, 1912, way over 100 years ago, the Titanic sunk. The Titanic. All right, we'll get into that. But it was owned by J.P. Morgan. The White Star Line was the name of the liner that commanded the Titanic. So it was the second of 3 ships. It was the Olympic first, the Titanic second, and the Britannic third. So the Olympic and the Titanic were sister ships, meaning they were pretty much copy-pasted versions of each other. There were some slight differences, but they were the same. It was built to be, both the Olympic and the Titanic were built to be the epitome of luxury, and the Titanic first class ticket going one way from England to America cost $4,350.
Which sounds like a lot today, but imagine even back then. Like imagine imagine what that amount would be today.
Oh, that amount today is $133,000.
Like that's insane.
Ticket.
That's like the price of like a house.
More than that. I mean, it's nuts. That's crazy.
That is wild.
So going a little bit into the actual history, the Olympic had a collision with a military ship that insurance wouldn't pay for, because it was a military ship. So it was very badly damaged. And there were a couple incidences where the Olympic kind of got into a couple little accidents. So it was damaged. And instead of repairing it, the propeller from the Olympic was switched out from the one from the Titanic to get it back up and running so it can start generating revenue again. And this is where we get into the conspiracy. Because this is what Tiva and I both believe, is that the Olympic sunk under the name of the Titanic.
You guys also just have to like really think about this from like, imagine that you are JP Morgan, right? And like you own this business and like you're supposed to figure out how to make these things happen. You think he can make it happen with the price of the tickets, but obviously I think there's potential that he felt a different way about it.
So I want to also mention that like that was just the cost of the first class ticket. Obviously it went down based on like there were many different classes on board of the ship.
Right.
So like the bottom tier, the people that were in the basement of the ship basically were paying significantly less than the $43,000 ticket.
Scared. Have you ever been on a ship like that?
No, and I've never done a cruise.
Skews me out.
I know, it scares me too, actually. I don't know that I would want to. I do want to do a cruise before I die, but
when I was looking up stuff for this, I stumbled upon this girl on TikTok, and she was like on a cruise or a boat for the first time, and she said it like really like freaked her out, like how it was like uneasy, but then she showed it at night, and like I just thought about what this must have been like. Dude, you can't see anything. You're in like an abyss. There's nothing. There's no lights. There's nothing. You can't see. Like imagine the ship going down. Like people probably think like, oh, you could kind of see each other. You can't. Like you can't even see what's going on. Like,
right.
It's insane.
We'll also get to that too, because there's like reasons why the ship. We'll just continue to recall the ship, because I don't think it was the Titanic, but the ship sunk that night. Because like I said, we believe that...
we're not denying the fact that a ship did sink, but the ship that sunk was not the ship that everyone is like told that sunk. It wasn't the Titanic, it was the Olympic. They switched them. we're getting into it.
Yeah. So, like I said, initially they started with the propeller just to get the Olympic set up to start making more income, because the insurance wasn't paying out on it.
And that's where I'm coming from of like, what would you do if you're a business owner? Like, if you need your ship to work and you have another ship that's similar to it.
Pretty much a copy-pasted exact replica of the ship.
Like, you're probably going to
Why would you not
use the part for now instead of like buying a new one.
Something interesting that I found was one of the differences between the Titanic and the Olympic was that on the Olympic they used titanium, I think, riveting, and on the Titanic they used steel, which like comes back later on into the theory, but like it was just interesting because it was handmade in a different country. And I don't remember what the name of that country is, obviously, because I didn't write it down, and I'm a whole buzzed. So instead of, like I said, instead of repairing it, they swapped the name. So when they had been like, okay, this ship has seen some time, it's seen some love, it's seen some accidents.
Yeah, it was just run down.
It was rough. It was in rough condition. So instead of repairing it, they swapped the name tags on the two ships to collect the insurance money. So that their ideal was that like the Titanic had been built and they knew that it was going to go on its maiden voyage, but it hadn't yet, and the Olympic was already kind of in bad shape. So to kind of fix the situation with the Olympic and not getting the insurance payout, they decided, okay, well, we'll just switch everything on it and say that that's the Titanic over there, this beaten down kind of bitch. Been there. And we'll put the Olympic over here in its place, and then we'll say that this one sunk so that we can get the insurance information or get the insurance payout on this ship that's already janky and broken to cover the cost of this one.
So, like, that was something sketchy that was going on, right? Like, that was definitely something that was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% believe that. Just like, we've both worked in business. I feel like we understand, like, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. Like,
yeah, sometimes it just is what it is. So, of interesting things that happened with these boats, right? So there's something interesting about like who actually went on the boat that night. So some of JP Morgan's business competitors were on the boat that night, and JP Morgan himself was actually supposed to be on the boat that night as well.
Dude, did you see that he was supposed to be on it and then like canceled it like 5 minutes before he got on?
Yes, he literally was supposed to be on or did get on and then he got off or whatever.
He's like, I'm all set, thanks so much.
So it's like,
he's also been cited as saying the ship's gonna crash. Like, someone's heard him say this.
That's wild. I mean, you gotta think it's just, these are a lot of crazy things that amounted.
Yeah. So I want to also mention that like the Titanic didn't sink as a conspiracy theory. There's a lot of layers to it. There's like 8 different things moving on in this. So yeah, JP Morgan was opposed by Astor, Guggenheim, and Strauss because he wanted to do centralized banking, basically the Federal Reserve. And they opposed him, so minutes before getting on the ship, JP Morgan and the Rothschilds, which was another wealthy family, decided that they were all set, that they were not going on this ship.
You were like, we actually are out.
We're out. And it's funny because the Rothschilds were in support of it. And a couple months after the ship sunk, the Federal Reserve came out, which is what they wanted. So all of his opposition died.
Right.
But yeah, so, I mean, JP Morgan bailed on it going, like, minutes beforehand. Insurance on the Titanic was taken out 2 weeks before it set sail on its maiden voyage. So that, I think, is also real sketch.
It just sort of screams that, like, this was, like, in a way, like, premeditated, I
Mhm.
would think.
I think it's very much an insurance fraud kind of situation
Yeah.
that they were trying to,
It
like...
just stinks that, like, people's lives
Right.
were then, like, affected
Well,
by
that's
that.
also one of the things, too. So there's a couple different people that, like, a couple different theories about, like, how the ship actually sunk, too. So, like, one of them is that it was so premeditated that they had ships nearby to help get people off the ship, that they were just going to open the kind of floodgates of the bottom of the ship to let it sink slowly so that they could get all these people off board, and then it was like, bye. And it obviously didn't go down that way. So that's another part of the theory. But when the ship did sink on April 14th, 1912, yeah, I had to look it up again because I'm a little
crazy.
faded.
That's crazy. 1912.
1912. I think it's funny that it's in
Wow.
April, though. Like, happy birthday, me. Late birthday. This is super random, but there was no moon that night, like almost no moon. It was like a new moon, so it was
like
really
even more
dark.
pitch black.
Yes,
That's
it was
so
really,
scary.
really dark. Yeah. And the other interesting thing is that there were ice warnings from other ships that were nearby that had said, like, hey, there are, you know, ginormous icebergs nearby, like, just a heads up, fam. And instead of, you know, slowing down and anything, the captain continued and maintained his speed of 22 knots, which is actually, like, really, really fast as far as, like, boating goes. So, like, he was like, I hear you, but I'm gonna keep going.
Wait, so then this is the interesting part, Jen. So this is where the theory starts to split into two. So there's people that believe that the boat in question hit an iceberg. There's also people that believe it didn't ever hit an iceberg. And so one of the people that was actually on the ship, actually multiple survivors. Okay, so there was multiple survivors that were interviewed afterwards, after all of the Titanic had happened. And they claimed to have never seen an iceberg and said that they did hear a loud explosion before the ship sank.
And I did hear this too. Like,
some people said there was like a fire sort of erupting from it. There was like varying degrees of like what exactly people claim to have heard, but I guess, you know, it was nighttime, like people, obviously this was like an alarming thing, so I do think like multiple things could have happened here, but just interesting if it was some sort of explosion, like even more premeditated.
Oh
it
yeah,
seems
100%. Well, and the other thing that I found interesting about where it splits too is, like, I can believe any of those. Like, I can believe that it exploded because I saw that multiple times in my research. I also saw, like, that they had opened the floodgates, like I said. I also saw that people, like, actually think that they did hit an iceberg and they just weren't prepared for it because the captain was like, bye!
Or they were, like, intending to hit an iceberg. Like, because they were trying to collect the insurance money.
Yeah, so, like, it was also said that, like, the captain, quote-unquote, didn't hear from the bridge that there were iceberg warnings, which I do not believe at all. But, shocker, there's no eyewitnesses from boats that were nearby.
Of course.
Of course not. Why would there be? Inside job.
You would want to make sure you're not near anyone.
Exactly.
If something like that was going to happen.
So, the ship sunk. Many people died. We're back to, like, real-life history. Okay. What happened after the fact is that, like, really seals the deal for me, right?
Okay.
So, it was a $10 million insurance payout.
Insane.
And, like, the boat, I think, was evaluated for, like, 4.7. That's just me guessing. I don't know that it was actually that, but, like, I'm just saying, like, it was significantly lower. And like I said, Strauss, Astor, Guggenheim, they all died. They all opposed him. And what I think is really, really wild is that recently, like more recently, there was a submarine that was supposed to go down and, like, investigate the remains of, like, what's down there. And it also sunk. And, like, JP Morgan family is still functioning today. That's still, like, a household name.
Right.
So, like, super wild.
So there's some really interesting things about some of the people that actually, like, worked on the ship. So this one fun fact I came across when I was, like, researching this was that one of the bankers, bankers, sorry. I'm thinking banker because of JP Morgan.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. I got you on that trend.
One of the bakers, okay, so he baked, he was like a cook, a chef on the ship. He was featured in the movie, so if you watched, I've never watched the Titanic movie, which a lot of people find really strange.
You haven't seen it?
No, and I have no interest in it. It's long as hell. I'm not
It is
interested.
really long. It used to be on
all-
2 VHS tapes. Okay, you had to watch one tape and then switch it up for the other one.
It was just too much. I've tried, like I've like attempted, and then like I used to always fall asleep finding like a movie, and it could be the middle of the day, and I just feel like this sucks, and fall asleep.
I will say the only good thing about that was young Leo and Jerome, like one of your French girls. Iconic.
So I haven't actually seen the movie, but okay. So the baker is featured in the movie, but he was one of the last ones off the ship, and what he did that night was he just got really drunk, like, and then started helping other people off the ship and kept having drinks. And people say that it actually potentially helped because it put you in a different mindset to like handle the water and the cold that night. And so he actually had to wait 2 hours before he got on a lifeboat and said that the lifeboat was actually colder than when he was in the water, which is again, like, you can imagine, like, you get used to the temperature when you're in water. Like, even if it is cold, you know, if you do like ice baths or anything, like, eventually you get past the point of like it
sucks.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, you're used to that temperature. So when you stand up, this standing up is initially worse than even being in the cold water.
Yeah.
So that was sort of what he was experiencing. But so what I think is crazy is, okay, so he got really drunk. He helped all these people off. This ship is sinking. He literally got into the water at the same time that the ship ran out of the places to be. And so the crazy thing is, after the...
I'm sorry, let me backtrack. Places to be. It's like going down, and it's just like, good night. He's like, oh, well, I'm out of boat.
That is like what happened. And so wait, the crazy part to me is he did all of this, right? He got drunk, he did all this, he waited 2 hours.
Pour one out for the bakery, you know.
But then he continued to bake on ships after this and survived another ship sinking that he was baking on. This guy just literally was like, well, I guess it's part of the trade, so...
Well, I take it back. Don't pour one out for him, because honestly, that dude's a fucking G.
I couldn't believe it. This really was like, I thought the funnest fact of the whole thing was like, what is with this? And like, the fact that it happened again, and that he just didn't even care and went back to his job.
It's like, well, I sunk with this one, so I guess I'll just go back to work. Don't know what else to do. I make some bread. It's really good. Let's get this bread! Can you tell we're a little bit more faded this time?
We decided to prep for you. We felt that last time we didn't prep at all, and so it was less cross-faded. It was less like our name here.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you're listening, we so appreciate it. You can find us on Spotify at XFaded Pod. You can find us on Instagram at XFaded Pod. You can find me personally at Tiva Tokes. You can find June personally at
Gin and Ghouls.
So check us out. We love...
Do you have any more points?
I do have one more.
Okay, cool. I had a couple points too.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so my other one is, again, about a worker, which I think that this was really interesting. I think whenever we can get the worker's perspective,
pause.
like...
Wait, pause. You need to get a little bit more faded with
Oh
me,
my
I think.
Oh
I'm
my
already, like,
Let's go.
a drink down. Round 2. Fight. I think this is more fun
Amazing.
the more faded we get.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. All right. So this is another worker. You guys may have heard of this guy. He came across a lot when I was doing research. James Fenton. So he worked on building the boat, actually, and survived the sinking. He was on the ship the night of the sinking and also survived, which makes you think a little like he had to have known this was going on. Like, he had to have known something was up. I don't know. I would think so. But On his deathbed.
Oh my god, I heard this. I literally heard this. This is so wild. I heard this, didn't write it down because I figured you would.
I was so excited when I saw this. On his deathbed, his literal last words were, "The Titanic never really sank. It was the Olympic." And he said that he was told if he ever said anything, something bad would happen to him.
Yeah.
Like, what? And he waited till he was on his deathbed to tell someone? Like, I think that's crazy.
Right. So, two of the things that
Meanwhile, the other coworker continued to bake.
He's like, I'm just out here making bread, man. Just doing my thing. I'm making bread. You want some muffins?
He's like, you just get drunk.
Get drunk and make some muffins. You know, I mean, honestly, that's what we did around Christmas time. We got drunk and made cookies. So it's a vibe.
I feel a lot sturdier here on land.
Same. I don't know how I feel about baking on a ship. I feel like I would get a little seasick.
I feel like they might turn out bad.
I don't know. Like, is it the same though? Like when you fucking make bread, it doesn't die because it doesn't give it time to rise on a ship?
I don't know. Where is it? Is it like on ground level? It's not underneath?
I don't know. I've never been on a ship.
Ships freak me out.
Dude, maybe we gotta take a trip.
I don't want to.
Okay.
I will not.
I think I want to do.
sit at a docked ship. That is the most I will get to a ship.
I think I want to do a cruise to Alaska. Cute.
That's crazy.
Alright, so two of the things that I had left was that the Titanic had 14 portholes and the Olympic had 16. So the boat that actually went down had 16 portholes. So it was the Olympic. And then the other thing that was really odd to me is that the propeller on the quote-unquote Titanic had the Olympic's dock number. So all of the dock numbers, all the serial numbers, so to say, were all the Olympics. The ship that went down was the Olympic. I'm sorry, like I don't know.
We didn't convince you, I don't know.
I like. There's no doubt in my mind that it was not the actual Titanic. I know a ship sunk. I'm not that dumb.
Right.
But
and the way in which it sunk, we don't even know. We're not trying to convince you of anything. We're just letting you know there's like multiple things out there. Maybe it hit something, maybe it didn't. No matter what, I think it was intentional, whether it was some sort of an explosion that was set up previously, whether it hit an iceberg on purpose, whether it did collide with another ship, maybe on purpose.
Maybe all the fucking plans failed and he was just like, full speed ahead.
Right. Like, who knows? Like, who really knows what happened with that? But what we are saying is that the ship that went down was not the Titanic.
Right. I fully believe that it was the Olympic. And we actually got, like, quite a few responses to the story that we put up.
Some other people agreed already before even
Yeah, a lot of people agreed. And a couple people were like, don't know, but I'm interested to hear. So thank you for the response. It was cool.
And DM us what you think. Like, after you listen to this, tell us what your thoughts are. Like, do you now think something different than what you did before? Did you like the points? Did you have any points that we missed? If you send us something cool, we'll share it on the story.
Yeah, I loved it. Honestly, like, this is one of my, like, I will die on this hill kind of fucking conspiracy theories that the Titanic did not sink. Thank you so much for coming to our podcast. Like, that is where we're at. And I'm so happy we're on the same side of it this time.
I think that if after listening to this you're not on the same side, I don't know what to say. But I also really want to mention, if you want to watch like the video form of this, we are also on YouTube. You can find us at XFadedPod. And yeah, you can watch our little reactions IRL. You can watch us on video the whole time if that's your thing. Or if you just like listening to us in your car or at home while you're making
at
dinner.
Work, like I did this week.
Yeah, wherever. Honestly, DM us where you listen to this. Also, I'm so interested.
I want to kind of apologize for missing last week.
Yeah.
We had a snowstorm here, and I also bought a new car, so...
Whoa! It's cool, though.
It is cool.
You'll have to show it on your story.
I mean, my car's name is Salem.
Love that.
Obviously, it's gotta be. And I'm really excited to have a new car.
You'll have to show people on your story.
Dude, I'm gonna, I think.
Amazing.
But yeah, like, this was really fun. I really hope that we brought some people over to the fun side of life. And
I hope so too. Oh, and we have one question for you guys, actually, on what our next week's episode should be about. We have a few different options. We want to see what you guys want to see.
But also, before we get to that, like, let's just all agree that this was an inside job. It was all an inside job.
We're like, if 100%. You don't agree with us, bye.
But it was an inside job, so get on the train. We're leaving. Toot toot! So next week we're doing cryptids, and we want to know if you want to hear us talk about Mothman, Bigfoot, Loch Ness, or sirens/mermaids.
What would your vote be?
I mean, I'm a Mothman bitch.
I'm a Bigfoot girly. So let us know in the comments if you're a Bigfoot girly too.
Yeah. I mean, let me know if you're also on Team Mothman. That's totally cool, but
Team Mothman v Bigfoot girlies.
Woo! This has been cross-faded, and we've actually gotten faded. You faded? She's faded. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Peace out.